Well, hello everyone. Great to see you. I'm Lucy Huxley from Travel Weekly. I'm your moderator for this session. And as Alex said, we're going to be talking all about the touring and adventure sector. So I'm going to bring up now our experts. So please welcome to the stage Claire Brighton, the director of the Association of Touring and Adventure Suppliers. You can clap at the end, hold on. Brian Young, who is the managing director for Europe, Middle East and Africa for G Adventures. He is also the current chair of ATAS. We've got Giles Hawke, who is the Chief Executive of Cosmos, and we've got Claudia Miguel, who is the UK Director of Visit Portugal. So please join me on stage. So that was a good little exercise that Alex got you doing. And you were all really talking about your authentic experiences. Of course, that's what touring adventure is all about, authentic experiences. So very quickly, I'm going to go along the line and ask you what your best authentic experience was, Brian.
Well, you should know, you were with me, actually, on that trip. So we climbed...
Not like that, by the way.
So we climbed Kilimanjaro, gosh, just over 2 years ago now, with a purpose to raise lots of money for Absa Lifeline and a load of the community projects that we support as G Adventures around the world. So that was a challenge. Huge experience, took us out of our comfort zone, and something that, even though at the time it was a massive achievement, we said we'd never do it again, it was so good that I probably would like to at some point later down the line try it again, but it was amazing, yeah, and for a good cause as well.
Yeah, absolutely, brilliant. Claudia?
So I've just spoken about this twice already. Sylvia Aires from Centre of Portugal is here today with a supplier from our side. It was in Coa Valley in Portugal where rock art was discovered while they were excavating to be a dam. So in 2015 I went on a small tour with Japanese tour operators to that area and we visited the Coa Valley where the rock art is by night. So it has to be a specialized guide to go there, that is certificate that can take people there at night with a wonderful sky full of stars and with flashlights over to directly to the rock art and explaining what is the possible history behind that. Wow. So it was really, really interesting, and I would never thought it would be possible to go there by night and have a different set. So going through the beaten track road with a jeep, it felt like a bit of a safari at night, but to see rock art. So it is an experience I did in 2015, and I will never forget.
Amazing, amazing. Giles?
So last year I walked the Tour de Mont Blanc with my oldest son and my wife. And the whole experience was authentic and unique, partly because there were almost no other British people there, which made it fantastic. But I think my most memorable bit of it was arriving after about 10 hours walking in this Italian mountain refuge, and the welcome we got from the owners was just incredible. And then they gave us, it was just plain pasta with a little bit of tomato and a little bit of garlic and olive oil. Delicious food, and then we're staying in a dormitory with a bunch of other Italians and French, and it was just a really unique experience watching the sun go down on Mont Blanc. Yeah, really authentic and really special.
Great. And Claire?
Mine would definitely be Galapagos. The whole trip was obviously really memorable, but the first day that we arrived, we stood in front of a pair of nesting boobies, and it was just the most magical experience, so that would definitely be mine.
All right, brilliant. Okay, so Alex explained this as a session about ATAS, the Association of Touring and Adventure Suppliers. For those of you who don't know about ATAS, Claire, could you just give us a very quick overview of what ATAS is?
Yeah, so we are a relatively young association, so we were founded in 2017. So we essentially bring together all the best suppliers in the touring and adventure sector. And we have a membership of travel agents, and we try and educate those travel agents and raise the profile of the sector just to create a bit more kind of buzz around it. And we do training, and we do networking events, and really just anything we can do to kind of make touring and adventure a bit louder and a bit clearer on what exactly it is.
Okay, brilliant. And Giles, you as Cosmos are one of the founding supplier members. So you've got your agent members, you've got supplier members and other associates who want to be part of this sector, which is really growing. Giles, why was it important for you to be a founding member, and what have you, why is it so important to be part of this association?
So I come from the cruise sector, and I think the cruise industry has done a really good job working together over the years to raise awareness of cruise and train travel agents on all the different types of cruise available and the range of experiences. And I think within the touring and adventure sector, our voice wasn't really heard. We were so disparate and so different. So actually bringing us all together to talk to travel agents and the travel trade about why a touring or an adventure holiday is a great thing for customers to do to help them understand the differences but also similarities. It was an ideal way to create that noise and awareness. And I think the membership we've created and the number of travel agents we've got on board understanding way better now what touring, what adventure holidays are and how they can sell them. I think we've made a massive difference in that, whatever it is, 4 or 5 years.
Yes, and so I guess you're representing touring, and then Brian, there's a number of more adventure operators which you would fall under. So why is it important to you?
Well, the sector's grown massively. So traditionally, I think in the past, everyone's thought of the touring sector as huge coaches, stick up in the air, lots of old people following a tour guide around a city. But it's so far removed from that. And I think it's the educational piece that's important is, the sector, whether it's adventure or touring, is growing at such a huge rate that actually it's a much bigger sector than anybody could think of. It's bigger than the cruising sector. So I think...
And is it growing in every market, Brian? I mean, obviously we're in the UK, but
Sure,
you work across lots of markets.
No. So I see, our business South Africa is double-digit growth. Our European business is double-digit growth. So this type of holiday, and we're also a global company, so I see it in America, see it in Canada and down in Australia and New Zealand. It's because it's experiential. The fact that I think people have had enough, go on holiday and not doing a lot, like a package holiday, etc. I think people are moving on from that. People want to do something different. They want an experience. Therefore, kids get bored on a beach. They don't want to sit on a beach every single day. They want to be active and doing things, and I think this is why this sector's growing, is because huge breadth of product, lots of life-changing experiences that actually, from an 18-year-old that wants to travel, through Indochina to even someone, 80 years old, bucket list expedition trip and every single thing in between. So I think you're seeing an evolve of the travel industry and what people's expectations are and what they want, and that's why ATAS is important, because it gets that educational piece out there, but it's really important for, this audience as well to understand that there's lots of tourist boards here, DMCs, hoteliers. It's a sector that's growing quick and you need to be a part of it.
Well said, great. And why are you a part of it, Claudia, as a destination? What's so important to you to be part of ATAS and this growing sector?
So for us, as we all know, Portugal is mostly known, especially in the UK, for sun, sea, golf, but we have so many things for the tourists to discover in the interior of the country and the islands, and even in Madeira, of course. That's why also Madeira is with us, to discover other experiences that really connect to the island. And nowadays we are hearing so much about circular economy. How can tourism be a part of the developing and contributing for the survival of our villages, of our people, to retain people in those interior places and not make them come to the littoral or to the coast, because that's where the businesses are. So this is why it is important. And Portugal, in my case, representing here our country, is so much more than the Algarve. We are not trying to defer to what we are well known for, but there is much more than that. And of course, we have the whole season to sell. It's not only between June and September, but there is a lot to do and to enjoy in Portugal, and I'm sure in other destinations that are also here. So hotels need to survive, the DMCs need to be busy, and so I think this is the platform and the very good opportunity for our companies to be part of it, our regions, and surely we will want to be and continue to be part of this, of ATAS.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about survival, and of course we've just been through, or we're emerging now from this pandemic. Everyone's been hit by it, Giles, but the touring and adventure sector, what the challenge is obviously massive, I know, but how have you adapted through this period? And do you believe that actually this is a sector that can emerge quite strongly from it?
So some of the things we've done, we've introduced domestic tours that we didn't have before. So selling UK to British people, selling Ireland to British people. And actually it's gone really, really well. But as we bounce out, I think we will come back really strongly. I think people in our demographic, so 55 plus, they're wealthy, they're curious, they want to travel, but they want that sort of hand-holding, are going to be probably more cautious than they ever would have been. And they want what a tour can offer them, with a tour director to make sure everything is looked after, everything is done, that they have this really well-curated, authentic experience, but with someone to help them through it all the way. So I'm looking at our bookings for next year. At the moment, for 2022, our business is ahead of where we were at the same time in 2019. So there are customers who are desperate to travel, but they want the comfort, the security, and that sort of hand-holding that a tour can offer them that no other holiday really can.
And are these existing customers, or are you actually picking up new customers who perhaps hadn't thought of a tour but now want that reassurance?
A bit of both. So we've got a lot of people who had to have their holidays cancelled over the last year and a half, but that's only about 50% of our business for next year. So the other 50% are people who are new to us, who weren't planning to travel. So I think people are seeing the benefit of going with a touring company, because they've got all that comfort, they've got all that. If something goes wrong, they're looked after. If they have to cancel, their money's safe. So I think we will see touring and adventure holidays grow into next year, for sure.
Yeah. And Brian, your demographic is possibly a little wider than Giles's, and you've got some younger customers, although we wrote a story with you saying actually it's the older ones that are coming back quicker, I guess because they've been vaccinated sooner. So that's a positive, isn't it? Because you've got these people coming back already.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting, because at the start of the pandemic, everyone's saying, the young people are going to be the first to get back. They're the most adventurous, the risk takers, averse to anything. But you're right, as we've seen things unfold, it's certainly our average age has gone up, because most of those people are vaccinated and are able to travel. But we are seeing, and it's interesting, the pandemic, because it throws up lots of things as a business. You have to think quick on your feet. So where I agree with Giles is that pandemic, borders shut, and people stuck overseas. That huge operation to get everyone back quickly before, COVID literally shut the world down. And what happens there is you've got, a number of people that were either independently traveling, were stuck, couldn't get back. So I think the power of going away, doing experiential travel, touring with a tour operator can't be underestimated, that hand-holding. And I think a lot of people will realise that actually having we call them chief experience officers or a tour guide, is invaluable. They're with the customers 24/7 throughout the whole of the tour. So that experience, local knowledge, etc., you can't beat that. So the pandemic, I think, threw up all of those things that made people realise actually we're much better and safer travelling with a reliable touring or adventure company, and we are trying to do some of this stuff off our own back. And the other thing is you have to adapt during a pandemic. So like Giles talk about the fact that they've created, UK tours. We took a slightly different view on that. A lot of what we're about, adventure is through the DNA of our business. So trekking, hiking is a big part of what we do. So we created a load of tours into Europe, looking at the pandemic and saying, as we come out of this, travel corridors were clearly evident, even though they were a bit hit and miss the first time we come out of lockdown. Is where's the lift going to be? And it was going to be into Ibiza, Corfu, Crete, Tenerife, etc. So we worked on a program of like hiking tours into mass market destinations. Now, we're not known for that. We're probably more well known for Peru, Indochina, South America, etc. But we know that our DNA, our customers still expect X of us as a business, and we add value and differentiation from that. And, you know, we created tours in Portugal, Madeira, and I learned a lot about, you know, countries like that, like Madeira as an example. In the UK, we all think of it of old people going on a winter holiday. Actually, in the US marketplace, it's known as an adventure destination. So you've got a huge, like, different thought process around it. And actually, you know, we learned as we started to look at, like, all of these different places, and I use Madeira as an example, that it's like a hidden gem that the UK market is just not aware of how amazing that destination is, and the huge portfolio of things that can be done when you think differently about it. So for us, that's been a huge positive, is to create product knowing that, you know, the demand in the first place is going to be limited in where people could go, and we needed to be in those areas, and it's been massively successful for us. But we built it with the mind of not just coming out of pandemic, short-term, you know, being able to offer product, but how does this work for us longer term? Because we have a big North American marketplace.
So the changes and the adaptations you've made now are going to be there for, you know, it's not just a gap filler.
No,
okay.
That was important because, you know, through a pandemic, you reduce your staffing, so you've got less resource, less time, you know, to do these things. So we had to have a longer term thought process of, yes, there's a here and now, but how do we give this longevity to grow our market even beyond where we were before?
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, and you talk about, you know, the corridors being a bit hit and miss. I mean, Portugal was on and off that green list quite rapidly, wasn't it, back in May, June time? So how did that affect you? And also the tourist businesses that are trying to support these touring companies, how did it affect people on the ground?
Well, massively, because I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I mentioned Portugal was pretty much in all the colors, unfortunately. So red, amber, green, on and off. So it affects massively all of us. Here in the UK, of course, in Portugal, people need to reshift very quickly. And sometimes we are not helping. We know that our government, it's not only on the British side that things change really quick. But I think we have been also focusing a lot on of course, as all of us, in the internal tourism, and also other markets that are having liberty of movement since the EU certificate was on. And of course, we will go also step by step, but it has been a challenge for all of us. With the restrictions coming, changing of plans, changing of requirements to leave and to enter Portugal. It's something that I think it will continue for a bit. Let's see if the 4th of October will be a date that we all remember as being a little bit better, and at least give us a bit of a boost to plan, or things that will be a little more lightly understood by all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And Claire, as the association then, you've been active throughout all of this. Tell us how you've supported both your supplier members and your agent members through this really difficult period.
So we saw it as kind of an opportunity to just help as much as we could, and that was kind of we led towards communication, because suppliers were sending out a lot of messages to agents, and agents were trying to get as much information as they could. So we kind of tried to create some hubs where people could go to one place and find out information about all of our suppliers, rather than having to go to multiple places. And a time-saving device really for the agents, because at that point that is exactly what was needed. So we kind of did those hubs to start with, and then kind of moved forward gradually with that as we came out. So started to do a little bit more training, and also some networking events as well, which were really popular. And then we are moving forward towards our conference
Yeah.
now. So.
But you had a big role in lobbying as well. Both you and Brian, you were lobbying as well. You did the Travel Day of Action, so you were really trying to support the whole sector.
Yeah, absolutely. I started at ATAS literally 6 days before we got locked down, and so it was a really good start to a new job. But I think I didn't realise one of my first jobs would be to send a letter to Boris. So so I think in my first week we all kind of got together and decided that that's what we wanted to do as an association. But we haven't got the loudest voice, so then we joined with Safe Future Travel Coalition as well to kind of get that bigger voice, but still get our sector heard.
But you have grown in this period, which is
Yes,
remarkable. So you've added more members, haven't you? In this?
Yeah, we've added some more supply members, but we've added a lot more agent members. So I think the kind of training side of that has been really appealing, and we've added a lot of new agents to it. We're working with a lot of home workers now that we weren't working with before. So it's great to see that people are still really keen to interact with us, even during that period that they were going through.
Okay, good. So let's try and look more to the future now. I think both of you have restarted tours. Giles, you went on one, I know. Just for people here, is it as it was? Is it normal? Is it slightly modified because of the current climate? And do you see things getting back to normal quite soon?
So it's pretty normal. I mean, clearly people have got to do the testing before they go back to their country of origin in some cases. But the experience on the coaches and on the tours has been fantastic. The feedback we're getting, the customer questionnaires, our scores are higher than they were pre-pandemic. So I think what it's showing is, despite masks and all the protocols in place, people having fantastic holidays, a pent-up demand and frustration about having a holiday and wanting to get out there, people are experiencing in the way they always hoped they would. So I think these things aren't getting in the way at all. I guess the challenge is what happens over changing conditions, getting into a country, out of a country, and the fact that different countries are changing their conditions almost constantly. What is true on a Monday may not be true on a Friday. So keeping our customers up to date before they travel, while they travel, is really challenging. And a lot of our tours go between countries. So Americans might come over to Europe and they'll go to France and Switzerland and Italy. And actually travelling between those countries, there might be different rules between them. We had an issue recently with tours going through into Holland coming from Germany, and Holland had a different regulations to Germany over whether you could go in, how long you can go in for, and whether you had to take a test. So trying to keep up to date and up to speed with all that. But again, that's where an escorted holiday makes a big difference, because it's not people having to find out for themselves. We're finding out. We're constantly talking to in that example, the Dutch Ministry of Health, to find out exactly what the rules are, exactly what we have to do, and making sure our customers understand that. So I think the value we add is enhanced during this sort of situation, way over and above whatever it used to be.
And do you sometimes have to really change itineraries, like, mid-tour even?
Yeah,
Can you do that?
We're doing some changed itineraries. We had an issue going between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland a couple of weeks ago, where we had British people on the tour and Americans on the tour. British people could go from the Republic of Ireland into the north of Ireland with no problem. Americans had to take a 2-day test, but they weren't even in the Republic of Ireland for 2 days. They were there for less than 24 hours. So working through all of that is there's a lot of logistics, but that's where we add value that is immeasurable in terms of customers and what they can get from it.
Because you take that headache away. You will sort all that out for them. You'll make sure that they've got all the right forms and tests, etc. Okay. And Brian, we wrote that by October you'll have run 1,000 tours since September 2020, which might surprise people that you've managed to get that many tours away. I know they're from different markets, etc.
Sure.
But how's the experience been, and have customers, by and large, enjoyed a really great experience?
Yeah, I mean, to Giles's point as well, we run NPS, Net Promoter Score, to judge the quality of the tours and the feedback from our customers, and they're higher now than they were pre-pandemic times. So the customers clearly are loving the experience about, just being able to get out on holiday and have a great time. And we're very fortunate. We're a global organisation, so Americans, I don't believed in COVID too much anyway when it was, in play. But they, as soon as their vaccination program came into play and they were able to travel, they were off. So We have been fortunate that since last September we've been able to operate tours, we've been able to get Americans onto the tours, Brits, Europeans, etc. And as the world opens up, we're quite fortunate that if a destination opens, we can pretty much get operating rapidly. So yeah, I mean, that's quite a milestone for us to be in that position of 1,000 tours by the end of next month. But then, we are a small group tour operator. Average is 12 on a tour, 16 at the most. So, they fill up fairly quickly, and we're seeing the appetite is huge.
And actually, these smaller number tours, you've done the same, Giles. You've introduced some, I think, with smaller numbers, and that's been quite important coming out of this pandemic, with people wanting to have perhaps fewer people on a tour.
I mean, we've only ever operated in that way, but I would agree with you. I think in the first instance, I think that is the case. People like a little bit more intimacy, not so many people around. But in all honesty, what I think is going to happen, and we're seeing it already, is that's that first piece, and it's always evolving to, Giles's point. You have to adapt constantly, whether it's, change an itinerary whilst on a tour. But I also think the customers adapt and become more confident as well over a period of time. So, yes, I think in the first instance, small group touring appeals coming out of a pandemic. It will always appeal because that's what we, it's our DNA of what we do. But I do think, in the broader sense of touring, because, our sector, ATAS, isn't just about small group tours. Companies operate, big coach tours, etc. I think customers' confidence of a tour operator to be able to operate in a health and safety manner, protect their interests, I think they're confident that all of those measures are in place. So I don't think that's actually dented people's capacity to go on a larger group tour.
Okay.
But I think in the first instance, certainly, I think the mentality to start with was that, and I think it moves quickly as people get confident.
And just before we move on from you, sorry to make you keep talking, but you've introduced these vaccines, where you've got your tour guide fully vaccinated, and that's been quite popular, or something that you've asked customers and they'd be keen for that to happen.
So one of the things that's important to us is that, we constantly surveyed all of our customers throughout the pandemic to try and understand where their heads are at, what's their propensity to travel, and if they travel, what is their expectation of us as a company to look after them, to deliver products, etc. One of the things that was really important that, through the surveys was that when they're on a tour, it was important for them that our Chief Experience Officer was vaccinated, and the other part of that feedback was that if I'm vaccinated, I want to know, is everybody else that's on this tour vaccinated as well? So come from that feedback, we have two types of tours that we operate. It's fully vaccinated tours where the CEO is fully vaccinated and every single person that goes on that tour is double vaccinated. Then we have travel ready because we know, unfortunately, the vaccine program is a slow rollout around the world. We're in a fortunate position, in the UK that that's not quite the case, but other countries, that's, so they have to have time in which to catch up. So travel ready is there so that the destination can catch up and get the CEO vaccinated, and then we're in that position to move it from a travel ready to a fully vaccinated. But, we have to work with the world in terms of vaccine rollout at the same time.
Yeah, okay. So you bring us on nicely to sort of trends, or what your customers are sort of asking for. If we look at Portugal then, I know you've introduced some wine tours. What else are people interested in? You talk about these other things in the interior. It's not just the Algarve and the beaches and the sun, but what kind of touring and experiential travel can you offer, and that you're looking to really boost as we've come out of this?
So the wine tourism, definitely.
Yep.
So we launched on the 8th of September our own Portuguese wines platform. So on the following Portuguese trails, Portuguese surf. So because we really see that there's still a lot to train, not only the customer, but the agencies and the tour operators about what they can do and where. And also the core of our campaign in terms of destination is wine pairs with. So we know that it is something to add to the tours. And again, it's something that can be done all year round. And even you can be at the Sun and Sea program, but have a wine experience in the Algarve. So, and this is also being developed for the regions that are most looked for by the British tourists. But also, for example, the whale watching and in the Azores, the cycling and walking in Madeira, where, like Brian was saying, and it's music for our ears, what can you do in Madeira that it's not only lying by the pool? So all these, because we know, I've also experienced some staycation in the UK, in Scotland and in Wales, and I can see that there is actually, the British people like to do this type of adventure touring. It's also in the DNA of the people here. We can see all the shops that we have, so many brands of all the gear and equipment. So it's something that you can do with friends or with your family, and Portugal has that all year round. Because
some people just like to have the gear.
Yeah.
Not necessarily doing anything that
no, but all the equipment ready to, and so it's something that people actually, it's part of their holidays too, not only the sun and beach. So we are not with minus 10 degrees during the winter. So I think this is also important for people to have.
Which comes back to that season.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So everything comes with, you know, with all that. The British tourist is still the main guest, not the main guest, but it's the destination that contributes for more bed nights in Portugal, especially to the Algarve and to Madeira, more or less with Germany. So definitely, I think there is the platform for us to keep on pushing and training and awareing that Portugal has lots to do outside the high season and in all regions.
Raising awareness, which I'm sure Claire will make sure everybody knows at ATAS. Giles, you're obviously always on the lookout for new experiences, new destinations that you can take tours to. What are the key criteria that you're looking for when you're thinking, I'm going to put a new tour on to that place?
Well, a lot of it is willingness to work with us and recognise that a touring market is quite different. You're only 1 or 2 nights quite often in one place and you're moving on. We also do need places that our customers have heard of, and that's a difficult one because part of what we do, we introduced an Undiscovered series about 2 years ago, and I can see that becoming a bigger thing in the future, going to less known destinations. So, you know, a customer might come with us for the first time and do a tour of Italy, and they'll do Rome, Florence, Venice, and we'll want them to bring them back to Italy, and we'll go to lesser known destinations, lesser known towns and cities, and they're really popular Undiscovered tours. We have been doing quite a lot of off-season tours as well. We call them escapes, Globus escapes, and we introduced those about 3 years ago, and we're now sending tens of thousands of people on off-season touring holidays to destinations when it is winter months. And our customers love them, hoteliers love them because it fills the hotels during the quiet periods. And you're going when, you know, there are fewer people around, you can go to the big sites and you're not having thousands of people there. So we can develop our escape series as well. And I guess it's just recognising that a touring customer has a very specific need. Single rooms are really popular. We get a lot of single people want to go on our touring holidays. So, you know, if you've got hotels or you can help with singles, give us good rate for singles, that is a big, big driver as well. But I think as much as anything else, it is a rounded, authentic experience. When we take people somewhere, they're not just taking a photo of another big site, they're actually getting to experience something, something of the local culture, something of the local cuisine. They don't want to feel anymore, as Brian said, that they're following a guy with a stick, you know, follow me, look at this, here's another site. They want that real insight, a real depth of experience and actually doing something rather than just seeing it.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. I will come to you in a minute, Claire, but just don't want to lose this thread. Brian, you did a survey recently globally of 4,000 customers, and reconnection travel came out at the top and revitalization travel number 2. Yeah. So just to explain to us what that is, because that's obviously a trend you're going to clearly pick up on.
Sure, yeah. I think the most important part of that was the reconnection piece. So, you know, lots of people, we haven't been out of travel for, what's it like, 19 months. On Thursday, it was the first time I'm going to get on a plane in 19 months. I used to be on a plane like 2, 3, 4 times a month. So I'm actually quite excited. I used to moan about getting on planes, but that's the bit for me, is that reconnection is what we found is our customers can't wait to get traveling again, can't wait to reconnect with other like-minded people, and that excitement about just going away on holiday and all of those sensory experiences, everything about it. So that's what our customers, are telling us, is they cannot wait to reconnect with the world. And the other thing, for those of you that don't know a lot about G-Adventures, we're a social enterprise organisation as well. So we have 100 social enterprise projects around the world that are a key part of the tours that we operate. So community tourism is a massive bit to what we do, about giving back to the communities through which our tours travel to. That also means a lot to our customers, and that's a big part of their reconnection with the world, is about not just going away and having a brilliant time whilst on holiday and meeting other like-minded people and going through all those experiences, but knowing that actually just by having a great holiday, the impact that they're making in those local communities. So that means a lot to our customers. Not every customer, don't get me wrong, first time is more about the experience, but once they've been on a tour, that is a key bit that they come back time and time again for. So I think that's really important. And revitalisation, we had wellness tours that we operated pre-pandemic. So it's a lot about, the key bit that for us is understand what our customers want from us. And at the same time, also think about the things, Steve Jobs was very good about creating product that the customer actually didn't even know they wanted until you gave them the product. And we find that as well, is that we listen to our customers on one hand, and a lot of the time we put that into place, but at the same time we also have the courage of our conviction to say, actually we could do something really cool, really, experiential, give back to the community in this destination, and the customers probably never knew they wanted it, but the minute we put it into the marketplace, we find that the pickup on it is amazing, the feedback that we get. So I think it's a bit of the two things, is, having the experience to be able to know, what they might not know they want it.
They don't think they want it, but then they do.
Put it in play, they love it, and at the same time listening. I think you can't ever underestimate listening to your customers.
Absolutely.
So important.
Okay. We've got a few minutes left. I could carry on, but has anybody got a question for our panel? Yes. You might have to shout. I don't know if we've got a microphone. Have we? We have. It's coming. Thank you, Michaela. Just the gentleman here in the white jacket. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I really admire what your companies and what ATAS do to support, encourage and develop sustainable tourism. At yesterday's session, the headline-grabbing moment was Tom Jenkins from ETOA saying that the sustainability focus and the need to build back better post-COVID has to take second place to just the survival of tour operators, and they need to do whatever is necessary to ensure survival. Is he right?
Giles.
I don't agree with that. I think survival is key. If we don't make our businesses survive, we won't be here. I take the business I run for the UK, but globally we have focused. We launched our Lighthouse projects back in April of this year, so a whole new project around sustainability. We've used some of the downtime to really focus on what we're going to do around sustainability and improving everything we do around our footprint. We're starting to work with Planetera, who Brian's been working with for years and years and years, looking at Ripple Score. We're focusing on, we've added a questionnaire in for all of our suppliers around sustainability, what they do. So I see that as becoming a bigger thing rather than less important. And actually, in the medium to long term, I think companies that aren't sustainable won't be here. So survival includes sustainability rather than sustainability coming second.
Okay, good answer. Anybody else got a question for our panel there? No? Oh, yes, over here. Sorry, Michaela, can you run? Just this lady here, 2 rows back. Thank you.
In terms of social impact and protecting the communities that potentially have not had a strong vaccination program, things like that, how are you kind of incorporating that, for example, into G-Adventure tours? So you're helping the communities economically, but also help with their health as well.
Yeah, so I'll answer a couple of parts of that because that is really important for us. So we have, as we said earlier on, during a pandemic, we managed to get to a stated goal of 100 social enterprise projects around the world. So that was, to do that in a pandemic was amazing. But the other thing that was really important to us is that without passengers, a lot of those social enterprise projects were suffering. So we had to pivot and try and understand, right, what could we do with those projects to help themselves during a pandemic? So a lot of that was, I take an example, they started growing vegetables so that they could sell the vegetables to the local community to keep themselves self-sustained as such. Or they built clay ovens to be able to cook bread to sell to the community that then becomes part of that experience as when customers come back. So there's a lot of looking at how can they re-engineer themselves to make themselves self-sustainable through a pandemic. Then clearly we had to do some fundraising, which we've done, several times during the last 19 months. And actually, there's currently a trek with Planetera that's happening. So people from around the world are virtually climbing Kilimanjaro to raise money for all of those projects. And then that money was basically taken and said, okay, what are the most in need community tourism projects that we've got, where we can actually displace and put some of this fundraising in to help support those guys. The other aspect, coming back to your point about the vaccination, so, Peru, we're massive in Peru. We're actually the biggest company in that area, so we have a lot of porters that work for G Adventures, lots of cooks, you name it, and also that community that sit behind the porters and the cooks and such like. So we work very hard with the local government to ensure that we could get that community vaccinated, even if it meant that, we had to take them to places to get those vaccines, etc. So that to sort of just give you an example of some of the things that we do to, because the community is a really massive part of, what we do as a company. So, in there, not only are we trying to protect our business during a pandemic, it's really important for us to protect the communities through which we visit as a business, when they're hardest time, not just for us, but for them as well.
Yeah, which is fantastic. We're really out of time, but I do just want to come to you, Claire, just to give us an idea of what's on the horizon for ATAS. I know you've got loads coming up.
Yeah, well, we've got our conference in 3 weeks' time, which is our largest ever ATAS conference, which is really exciting. We've got more training, we'll have some virtual and face-to-face events coming up, and we'll be making some improvements to our website.
Okay, all right, so if anyone is interested in hearing more about ATAS, I'm sure Claire will be able to answer any of your questions, or Brian as the chair. Giles was the founding chair. You've got no one more experienced than this panel to know about ATAS, but we thank you for your time, and please join me in thanking our panel. Claire from ATAS, Giles from Cosmos, Claudia from Visit Portugal, and Brian from G Adventures. Thank you very much.